Very good to hear that, Mahesh. Here is a little background about my experience. I've been pretty much in Informix from day one. Started my career with IBM Labs here in Bangalore on Informix product support. So we used to have like Informix version 7.9 supports that time, handling from India, along with Informix has a front-end application tool called fourth generation language and CSDK and enterprise gateway. There are a bunch of other products pretty much into Informix the same time. Been into DB2 as well, DB2 on LUW completely. So these two are two parallel tracks in my career. It's I switched like a couple of jobs in middle from the past 12 years, but pretty much hanged around like Informix or DB2. Pretty much they have one Informix instance or 10 Informix instances or one DB2. And on the same lines, even I acquired IBM Netezza. That's another my core skill for the warehousing. And been into Oracle and various other technologies from tuning point of view. The strong base on Unix and shell scripting. Right. Sai, you are back. Sai, you can hear me? Sai, you are speaking on mute. Okay. Okay. You are muted. Okay. Right. So I got your introductions. Now, just for the benefit of Sai here, okay.
So, Ravi, one thing, I mean, I have zero knowledge on Informix as of now, so please treat me as a new student and please, please don't leave it, okay? Thank you.
No, anyway, I'm not going to cover too much internals of Informix. I'm just going to lay a basic foundation. So Sai, just pretty much I start from the experience of Sai has from the fresher level to we'll pretty much see what is covered in the complete classes. Right. Sai, let me ask you this basic question. This is to Sai, okay? Since you have done course in SAP already, if I ask you to define this word called database, how would you do that? Please define the word called database. How would you do that?
Database is a collection of raw facts using by SQL tables, storing data is storing in the tables format.
Right. Right. That's very good, Sai. That's very good. So, in my opinion, right, there is no single definition for the word called database. Right. This is how I define myself. Data is nothing but data plus base. We all know base is nothing but it's a repository. So in short, we call database as repository of data. Now we have various other information such as, data versus information, how they differ. I'm not going in detail. If you guys are interested, you can quickly Google like which is derived from what, right? How they are related. But my major focus here is once we understand the word called database, right? There is something called database management system, right? In short, we call as a DBMS, right? This database is like an employee, right? So like you and I are employees of an organization, and our work gets managed by our project manager. So DBMS is just nothing but a project manager, right? So this project manager can manage multiple employees. That's as equivalent as a single Informix server can have multiple databases. I'll cover that in a couple of slides from now. But what I'm trying to highlight here is various important terminologies. What is the word called database? How DBMS is different from database? Database is just like you and I. You and I specialize in our own skill set. Someone has to manage my skill set to deliver best in that 8 hours or 9 hours window. Who is that guy? My boss, right? Just because I am best at Informix doesn't mean that someone can walk to me and say that, okay, Ravi, do this work for me. I can't do that. I have a different schedule. So who is that guy managing that schedules here? DBMS, right? Over the years, databases became relational databases, and the associated DBMS became RDBMS. Then these became object relational databases. and our managers become smart to be ORDBMSs. Right. Now, now we have even XML data types getting stored in this. I'm not getting in there, right? Now, why I'm explaining all of this? I'm explaining all of this to say that all our database systems right now in the industry, including Informix, including Oracle, including SQL Server or a DB2, all are part of this object relational database system, ORDBMS systems. Based upon the usage of my databases, right? Based upon the usage of my databases have been classified into two major systems. One is OLTP system, another one is OLAP system. This is also called as data warehousing. This is also called as decision support systems. You name it. Right. What do I mean by OLTP is online transactional processing. It's for example, you book a ticket for a movie, right? Now, what is the best example for data warehousing is movie Warner, movie, not just movie, sorry, not movie, theater Warner has, let's say, 5 million, where he can invest this 5 million to get best returns. Where are the most movie coming crowd and all that information can be taken out of this system. Now, why am I explaining this? Because to support these day-to-day transactions, the key thing between OLTP and OLAP is the word called transaction. Is nothing but a unit of work. It can be booking your online ticket or booking your flight ticket or putting in dinner reservation or whatever that is. A transaction is a unit of work. In the OLTP systems, the transaction of work is less time. For example, maybe 2 minutes, 10 seconds, like that. But whereas when I come to OLAP or data warehousing system, my transaction time is more. Maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, right? What are all the various databases that support this OLTP model and OLAP model? Based upon their initial design, the examples of databases here are Oracle, DB2, SQL Server, of course my Informix, Sybase, etc. These are from the various industry leaders, and these were initially designed to be an OLTP systems, which supports the transactions which has small length. However, on the other side, when you talk about a data warehouse, the examples are IBM Netezza, Oracle has Exadata, EMC has Greenplum, HP has Vertica, I think SQL, like Microsoft guys have something like Parallel Database Mission or something, right? These were the true OLAP systems, right? Now the question I'll be asking myself here is, what is Informix? To answer this simply, Informix is a OLTP system. Informix is a OLTP plus object relational database system. So this is the first thing I would like to highlight in my first 5-10 minutes, just to give a just put Informix on the chart of RDBMS systems. So if I just do a quick recap before I take questions here, I draw a little analogy on what is a database here, right? How database systems evolved into our object relational database systems. And on the other side, how databases have been classified into two major types based upon the way they are used. Based upon the way they store the data and use it. One is OLTP, another one is OLAP. So now where is my Informix sits here? My Informix is a OLTP system which supports ORDBMS database methodology. Now that does not mean that can't I use Informix for OLAP? Yes, you can use. But you have to do a little tweaking, right? So if you watch sports, sometimes a single badminton player might not be playing the doubles. Why? Right? If you look at this guy, Nadal or Federer, these guys are the best single players right now there. And of course, there are pretty new ones there. But they don't play doubles. Why? Because that requires a different skill set altogether, right? So if I want to use something for data warehousing, right, it requires a special skill set. Those skill sets are available in these dedicated solutions, but not in these OLTP systems. Sorry, not in these OLTP systems. But still I can use Informix and I can customize it, I can tweak it, I can put a pressure on this guy to use it for OLAP. But that's not a best way to use it. Now coming to the scope of this whole course, we'll be looking at Informix from only OLTP point of view. We'll be looking at complete course of the 32 hours from transactional system point of view. How best we use the system, how can I tune the system for transactions in OLTP, right? Before I go on further talk on these Informix, the basic architecture and how it differs from other RDBMS systems I have mentioned here, let me take questions here. Let me pause here for a minute and take questions so far. Any questions from you, Sai or Mahesh?
So you would be mostly covering Informix from the OLTP point of view, right?
That is
So,
true, Mahesh.
I mean, out of just curiosity, does Informix have any any future like DB to DPF?
Not that extent, not that extent. There is something called Informix, I think Data Warehouse Accelerator or something. No, but as far as I know, not that pretty big. Yeah, not just like DPF feature, data partitioning feature.
All right, yeah,
Right,
I'm good.
right. Yeah, there is something called Warehouse Accelerator, but to be honest with you, I haven't worked on that area at all. Right. So pretty much my exposure is completely from OLTP systems. Sai, I have seen you on and off. So did you get any glimpses of my discussion so far? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'll share this recording. Okay. Now, moving forward. So the basic question we need to ask ourselves is, what is Informix? Informix is a primarily designed for OLTP system, or Informix is a ORDBMS system, right? Now, if I walk you through little history of Informix here. Informix was the company founded in 1980s, around 1980s, and it is the biggest competitor for Oracle those days, right? From what I heard, what I studied, from the discussions I had with the architects, this is the biggest competitor for Oracle. In fact, it beated Oracle in number of instances with the market share in 1980s and 90s. But what happened later? Informix lost its market share because these guys involved in a lawsuit issues, some issues with accounting malpractices. So from then Oracle never looked back. Somewhere around 94, 95, that time frame. That was the pretty much the same time DB2 introduced these open systems, UDB and LUW stuff, right? But any new product takes some time to stabilize, right? So we had a DB2 on mainframe, still pretty much people use it, but it never sustained the open markets revolution, the mainframe. So Oracle became the single largest vendor out there for the databases. Now, what made Informix number one during that time, even right now, with respect to the number one database for customer satisfaction, which is you just install once, set it once, and just forget for lifetime. How big your database system can be, right? Because of its multi-threaded architecture, because of its virtual processor technology within it, you just set it up, and you need very, very, very little administration. From my experience, if I'm managing a 2 terabyte of an Oracle system, I might need 3 to 4 DBAs covering different shifts. But as long as I have one DBA who can do a little on call with Informix, I can manage my system without, with the same number of users hitting the system and with at least little more performance than what Oracle does. Yeah, like I said, the core of this Informix technology is very, very strong, right? But after the lawsuit, what happened is IBM acquired this guy with the hope that that's my understanding with IBM guys because I was in the IBM labs. With the hope that they want to take the technology out of this guy and put it in IBM DB to LUW. Right, Informix has the biggest customers during even that time after the lawsuits because Walmart is the biggest client still now, and Home Department, all these transactional systems that heavily depend upon the stock analysis and stock submissions because they need pretty fast response time. So they were with the hope, IBM was with the hope that they want to take the best technology from this, the threaded architecture, right? And they want to put it in DB2 with various other features too. But what happened in reality during that time was instead of people moving to DB2, they started moving to Oracle, right? They started moving to Oracle. So people see no option other than just maintaining Informix and making it alive. So, and I see pretty big support from the past 3 to 4 years for the Informix. It was kind of a muted support somewhere in uh, 2004 to 2008-9, but after that, in my opinion, it has seen the biggest support. I think it's pretty big right now in China and various other Middle East countries, and it's doing pretty big from the past couple of years at least. So this is a little history here. Like I said, IBM bought it in 2001, and I started my career with Informix in 2004. I asked myself the question, like even the Sai asked me last week, so what are the prospects for Informix, right? So that's a question I asked 10 years back, 14 years, no, sorry, 12 years back, and I'm asking right now. So it's still alive even after 12 years. We all thought that it's going to be end of support for Informix in 2005 or 6, but it's still alive, and I'm sure it will be alive. When they initially released in 80s, it's a CSM, then Informix Standard Engine, then it's Informix Online Engine, then they named it as Informix Dynamic Server. In short, we call it as IDS, then 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12, the latest one, right? This is pretty much the little history how it's evolved from the flat file system to ORDBMS systems, right? So under IBM, it's been more than 12 years, right? And IBM never let it down. Initially, even though they thought of moving it to DB2, but the reality was different. After they realized it, it's not going to be decent plan, so they've been supporting it, right? There are so many thoughts, right? DB2 is IBM's own baby, Informix is not its own baby. So what are the future for it? So I'm the best example for it. Like I said, I asked the same question 12 years back, and the answer is bleak. Now I'm asking the same question myself. The answer is bleak, but the product is sustaining from the past 12, 13 years, even after IBM acquisition. So it's a pretty good bet for you to say even to get a job on this. Why? Because the requirement is out there if you look at in Naukri and all these, but there are no resources out there. I'm talking about entire India. I don't find even 2, 3 resources looking for a change right now, purely on Informix. Trust me. Right, the current version we have out there in the market is 12.1, and these are the various features they started adding it. Right. If I get in detail about Informix, and if I have to explain Informix to someone else, which is not completely from a databases, right? Informix is a single instance, multiple database model. So if I put it, the basic architecture, single instance, multiple database model. So what I mean by that is, I just install or I just create one instance under which I can create n number of databases. only limit is your infrastructure. It's not like Oracle 12c new feature called pluggable database model where you have to license your databases. No, it's not like that. So the licensing terms here are on a different scale, a different level. But with respect to a single instance, I can have n number of databases created. Absolutely, there is no limit as long as you have licenses at a CPU level or that level. So that's what I'm trying to highlight here. I just extract the product and I just install the product. It goes into one directory. Using that directory, I just create multiple instances. If I think this as my development environment, I can have development instance as a server instance one. I can have a QA as a server instance two. Like that, I can have n number of instances. Under each instance, I can have n number of databases. Right. So pretty much as a developer, someone connects to one of these databases, right? Using the instance name, database name, at what port number it is listening, and the server name, basically the platform name. So this is for a complete new person, right? If I if I have to compare this architecture with other databases, one thing that matches clearly with this is DB2. DB2 is completely in the same architecture, even on the SQL Server. I don't know, somehow Oracle is the only different guy pre-12c, but even 12c Oracle it followed the same architecture with little tweaks here and there. Right. Any questions on this introduction and this instance model so far?
So this is Mahesh Ravi.
Go
So
ahead.
from so how is the licensing per instance or a product or per user, or we have different models in licensing, same as
Yeah.
DB2?
Yeah, same like DB2. You can license it per user, you can license it per CPU, or you can license it per core or socket, right? So,
Okay.
you know, the same levels. It's not at a database level, number of databases or number of instances. It's just at the same like DB2, the pretty much, yeah, pretty much at the infrastructure side only, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sai, you are able to get it? Any questions on this? All right. Now, okay, sure. Thanks, Sai. I've seen your message. Now, if I have to go in detail in understanding the Informix architecture, this slide is from a database administrator's point of view, like storage model. How do I look at my Informix from other side of it? So far in the previous slide, we looked at from developer aspect. Now let's look at from DBA side, right? I have my instance here. What is an instance? I keep using that word. What is an instance? In short, instance is nothing but my DBMS. The simplest way to understand DBMS or RDBMS or ORDBMS, whatever that is. That means my manager. Instance is nothing but my manager, right? Right. So in a software terminology or Informix terminology, we say that instance is a shared memory connection. We will learn more about this when we are trying to bring up the Informix instance. Okay. Now once I have that instance created, like I've shown in this slide, once I have that instance created, this instance is combination of various DB spaces. You can imagine this as you are a senior project manager and you have multiple project managers reporting to you. DB space is also called as database space. In short, in DB2 we call it as a table space. Oracle, I think it's pretty much the same terminology, table space. This DB space is a combination of physical units called chunks. These are pretty much your .dbf files in Oracle, .lrg or .cat, .tmp. Those are the files in DB2. So this DB space is combination of chunks. When I talk about a chunk is a unit of allocation on the storage, physical thing, like 1 GB, 2 GB, 10 GB, 100 MB. That's a combination of various pages. It's the same terminology as in DB2, but Oracle calls it as a block. Right. When I create an instance, when I create a default instance by default, right, what we'll get some DB spaces. This DB space is a logical thing, combination of a physical chunk. This physical chunk is again a combination of logical pages. Right. So this is a terminology, quick terminology. Database, what I have beneath here is DB space. DB space is combination of chunks. Chunks is a combination of pages. So we'll see in more detail when we created an instance and when we created a database within it. We'll see them in practical. But at a high level, right? Here I am. I'm an employee, right? So for this employee to be working efficiently, I need a manager, my instance. Like this, I can have another database here. Database 2, this might have DB spaces, its own DB spaces. It has its own chunks, it has its own pages, right? So for these databases to work, we need to make sure that instance is up and running. What do I mean by that? The connection to the memory should be active. The connection to the memory should be active. So this model pretty much what I have shown in the PPTs is from DBA point of view. When you talk about L1 tasks or basic L2 tasks, this is a major job for a database administrator, pretty much covering various storage aspects of it, making sure you have enough storage, right? The third diagram I have here is Informix architecture from a process model. This goes a little deeper, saying that how the incoming connections and how Informix server can be classified, what are the various virtual processes I've been talking about. So Informix follows a little different architecture. It calls the backend threads as a virtual processes. For example, one best way I can compare, since you are familiar, Mahesh, with DB2, we have EDUs, right? Engine dispatchable units. So this is pretty much on the same lines, right? And Sai, you can understand this as the threads are a processes on Windows, right? Whenever you,
Ravi, if you don't mind, I mean, before getting deep into this architecture, can you go to the previous slide once?
yeah, sure, Mahesh, I'm here.
So in this one, the
Okay.
chunk is the table space container path, right?
That is containers in DB2. True.
Yeah, so it's the file system. Am I right? Or
It's a physical thing. Yes, it's a file system.
okay, so it's like slash db2 slash data, something like that. In Informix, we'll have a file system associated with this DB space,
That is
right?
true. That is true.
Okay.
It's a
So
physical thing, right?
okay, so I'm sure we'll be going in detail, but do we have like SMS, DMS thing in Informix?
Yes, there are two different technologies here. The same, not the same terminology like operating system managed or database managed, but we pretty much have the same thing. We call it as a cooked file and raw file. What we call it as cooked file, where OS is a mediator, right? That's pretty much system managed SMS. Raw file, where DBMS directly controls it. Yeah, the naming might be different, but it's pretty much the same concept. Do I have an operating system as a mediator, or database takes control of it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem. No problem. Right. So yeah, the next slide I'm talking about is little deeper. So this requires complete understanding of how these virtual processors that needs to be tweaked and configured, because the moment a client connects to it, what is the first thing that happens, right? Who is the guy that's going to receive the connection, right? What is the thread, and what is the thread is going to do? This thread is going to give control to different virtual processors. Which virtual processor takes control? And when I talk about my shared memory, my memory that I assign, like instance memory or database memory, how it got divided, how it gets divided into three different memory portions. Like I have shown here, resident, virtual, and message sections, right? So my end objective as a client is to go and get data from these physical chunks or DB spaces. The combination of chunks is DB spaces, right? So how do I get data from these DB spaces? So in middle what I have is various logical mechanisms that gets the data into memory here, and does the stuff. So the next slide just pretty much talks about right, what is this memory segments and all that, right? Now what I wanted to show you for a quick minute here is the course content, right? I mean, the whole course requires 32 hours plus 4 to 6 hours for high availability setup. That's not covered in the basic course, and all our course is getting covered in RHL lab. So we'll install a VMware, and for example, if you look at here, if I go and open my VMware, so inside it I already have Informix up and running, right? So these are the course outlines that we cover. We pretty much look at the Informix introduction, then how do we install and how do we set up the instance creation, database creation. This is pretty much the same database concepts if you want to learn in any other databases too, right? So and what are the details? This is pretty much the corporate training content for 4 days, 4 into 8, 32 hours. Pretty much the first week is nothing but a day one. This is like day one or a week one. We pretty much look at instance and database setup. In a week two, we look at how the storage management happens, what are the various commands that we need to learn, right? And on the week three, we pretty much look at what are all the various data movement utilities we have. And week four, we look at little advanced concepts such as a troubleshooting DBA to monitor the production stuff. What are the various options I have? So each one of it, even though I mentioned here lab, this is pretty much we do on a corporate training. In the afternoon, we do the labs. But I show them in the live here. For example, here is, where do I have this? I should be having here. So this is one of my Linux VM, right? So I pretty much show you here, like whenever I create an instance, I walk you through here and I expect you to do the same thing, right? So whenever I create a database, whenever I show them the option, this is the lab I use. The setup is very easy. It's not that complicated. As long as we have at least 2 GB RAM, you can install the Informix. So on top of it, I think Mahesh, you are looking for HDR as well, high availability data replication. So HDR, we did not cover basically in this labs, So, but I'll do that for you on the fifth week.
Sure.
It's going to take like 2-3 classes extra than what I have described here. So this is pretty much, I mean, if you're comfortable with other RDBMSs, it's pretty much the same, the access and everything. And like DB2 Informix is also the command-based administration completely. So if I say Informix, what is the password? The password is password. Yeah. Right. So this is pretty much up and running from past 21 days. What did we say? We say that ps-ef grep for db2cc in db2, right? Here the command is onstat space minus, right? So take it from here, and like we have db2, there we have something called db access or isql for application side. Like Oracle has a SQL plus, we have a DB access. It's little advanced, or because if you look at the features these guys have these features in 1990s, 95s, where no one can imagine. But I don't know what happened. Somehow they involved in crisis, you know. But there is not pretty much, in my opinion, went in level with Oracle. Oracle or DB2. These guys are pretty big in troubleshooting, giving the GUI facilities, staying up to date with the stuff. But the big thing then Informix we are seeing right now is IoT, Internet of Things. I mean, of course, every database has its own stuff. But if you search in YouTube, Informix plus IoT, I think these guys are pretty much going big in that IoT right now. Because it can handle the transactions, it can handle that volume of data than any other stuff. So especially Informix 12 has some feature called time series feature, where you can collect data from various sensors, right? So that's where it's picked up pretty big, right? Where you don't really care about what database you use, that areas it's picked up pretty big lately. So yeah, to answer your questions, yes, whatever I mentioned there, yeah, will be covered. So what I did in this is I just give a little structure than what we have on the website. Pretty much you'll see the same thing. Yeah, right. Okay, so I mean there is a lot to cover. If you look at, I don't want to confuse you on the. So if you look at where is my ideas, so under day 2 you have, these are the options we look at, like day 2 basically in the sense second day of a corporate training. That's like our second week. The third week we look at data migration utilities and backup restore stuff. On day 4 we look at, that's the last fourth week, we look at various options, monitoring tools and all that. Right. So in summary, before I hand over to you guys for the questions, if even the person does not have any knowledge on Informix, he can be pretty good L1 or L2 DB in a matter of 3 to 6 months, just max 6 months, because it's majorly through a standard command based administration. You literally have to write zero SQL. Zero. If you want to create a database, it's as equivalent as going through these interfaces and just creating it. For example, DB access is the interface. It comes up with various options. You move with the scroll, left arrow, right arrow, you go to database and you say create, just say test DB1. You select in which table space you want to store and just say create new database. It just says running and it will create database for you. Something is not right. So maybe it's full with the transactional logging.
Can this be done same time with the SQL?
Yeah, you can do the same thing with SQL too.
Okay. So this is more like a GUI and like even though it's not on Windows and everything, but it's like what we have control center and everything on DB.
Yeah, that's pretty much. So this is not completely a CUI, I mean GUI, but the best you can get in a character interfaces. Right. So it's still a character-based interface, but this is kind of a, if you go to a bank, they have kind of menus and forms, right? This is the build-up. This has been completely built on Informix 4GL, the fourth generation language. So the database is created here. If you go to info and if you say select here, you should see our database test DB1 that we just created. So just to answer you, there is an option here called query language. If I go ahead and select sysadmin, this is a default on system database. I say create database test DB10 and I can simply say run. Database created. So you have both options. I mean, if you're comfortable with SQL, you can still go ahead and write SQL. Or if you're not comfortable initially, just you can just practice it with these options. As a DBA, it's not my expectations to be pretty good in SQL. So it's a pretty decent tool out there from Informix. And yeah, all our practicals are on 12.1. It's the latest one right now. And what do we get as part of this course is, you get of course the class PPTs and the associated exercises and class recordings. Right. Pretty much, unless you guys have a concern, the class will be recorded and it will be kept on my Google Drive where I can share the links to each of you to download. Right.
Do you need to buy any book or anything to follow, or just following your classes good enough, Ravi?
Yeah, that's enough for the support. So for L1, L2 support, that's enough. Right. That's enough. Yeah. There are some books like Informix Unleashed but they are pretty old. They're pretty old. So the best book I can say is just follow the official documentation. Right. But there are like thousands of pages to read, close to like 2,000, 2,500. But they are the best places to start. Right. So, but I don't say that my course covers all 100% of what's there in those 2,000 pages. No, absolutely no. Right. But what are the nitty-gritties that needed for you to keep going in Informix? But if you want more options, more things, more detail, so anyway, the official documentation. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a goal of completing the certification as well. So,
Okay.
can you recommend any guides for certification while I attend the class on one side?
I don't have them right now with me, but I can try. I can check with my friends in IBM to see if I can get you something.
Sure, thank you.
So let me see. Yeah, Informix certifications. Okay. Right. So Sai, you are still there? I think you have a very bad internet connection, Sai. So he's offline again. Anyway, I'll talk to him after the class. Okay. Any other questions, Mahesh?
As of now, no. I have to get the fee deposited, and so we are going to have continuous classes from tomorrow.
No, Mahesh. So I'll let you know the schedule. For the next 2 days, I'm occupied, but from Thursday, I can take a class. My Thursday, that means your Wednesday evening. So I'll
Okay.
let you know the
So
schedule.
yeah, do let me know.
Yeah, I'll let you know the schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.